All righty, we're finally back. Football season's finally here. It's week one in the college football world. I've got the man, the myth, the legend, Rodney DeBulsey, back alongside me again as we get ready for another Georgia season. Georgia versus Oregon, week one. Two teams that haven't faced off in 45 years. Rodney, what are you most excited about this week?
Most excited just the fact that the Georgia fans are going into this as the reigning national champions. They spent so many years just waiting for that other shoe to drop. How was the season going to fall apart, And no matter how big the game was, Georgia fans were always worried about it. They're going into this game playing with house money. They've won the title, and now they want to repeat. But they're not, panicking about, well, who's the right guard going to be? What's going on at the star position? They're so excited because they've actually won it, and now they can enjoy a football season without getting all the grief from the Tennessee fans or the Florida fans or the Auburn fans teasing them about 1980. They're like, hey, we're the reigning champs. Now let's go play like it.
So many different storylines in this game and in this matchup, but maybe one of the more interesting ones is former Georgia defensive coordinator Dan Lanning is now the head coach at Oregon. How do you think that changes this matchup, and do you think that it's something that this Georgia team is kind of prepared for?
Well, why did Dan Lanning get the head coaching job? Because he's a fantastic coach. I mean, he was an impetus. He's one of the reasons Georgia players have those rings. He helped Kirby Smart win this championship, and he knows this personnel. He was able to give, his assistant coaches a scouting report on every player on this Georgia team except the freshmen. So he knows them. But here's the thing, Brian McClendon was on that Oregon staff last year. Now he's Georgia's wide receivers coach. So he's able to do the exact same thing. So from a intelligence standpoint, from a reconnaissance standpoint, from the scouting, it's going to be a wash. But it's going to be very interesting to see how Dan Lanning comes in and faces his old team. This is a guy who saw Stetson Bennett every day.
Yeah, interesting. You talked about Stetson Bennett, a guy that he said this offseason felt a little bit different considering he knew he was going to be the guy. Last year, he even joked he kind of lucked into the fact that he played last season to a certain extent. But this year, the starting quarterback is that guy and is very excited for this first week. What do you think you can see out of Stetson this year?
Well, everyone says he's faster, which is good. And let's go back to last year when he pointed out he was the number 3 guy. He wasn't even the number 2 guy. So one of the reasons that he got the job when JT Daniels got hurt was because of his legs. He can run. And, you think, well, now that he's kind of arrived, he will just sit in the back in the pocket and pass. No, he's still going to be able to take off. Dan Lanning knows that. Dan will try to stop it. They've got some great inside linebackers at Oregon. But this is a guy who, 2 years ago, he was told, we don't see any meaningful snaps for you. And he came in and helped Georgia out. Last year, he's a number 3 guy. Now he's the number 1 guy, and he knows those little tweaks and things that his wide receivers do. He has signals worked out with his tight ends. It's a new situation for Stetson because he didn't have that before. He was going in, and you're running bland plays with bland execution because you don't have all that perfection. But now he's run those reps thousands of times with those same guys, so should be a much smoother Stetson Bennett. He'll still make some boneheaded plays, but it should be overall much smoother.
Overall, I think if you're talking about boneheaded quarterback plays sometimes, one of the guys that people often talk about is Bo Nix, the new quarterback over at Oregon. Head coach Kirby Smart said that he knows who the starter is despite the fact that Oregon hasn't officially announced it. Bo Nix is a guy that this Georgia team knows pretty well considering he played at Auburn. How do you think Georgia prepares for him if he isn't, of course, the quarterback?
Well, I think when Kirby says, hey, we know who the quarterback is, he does. I mean, there's no question there. And Georgia's had great luck against Bo Nix, but you got to be a little worried that Bo is due. This is a guy who makes big plays. But Georgia's had his number. If you look over the 3 years they've played him, not a ton of great stats for Bo Nix. So I don't think that Georgia will prepare any different. But again, this is a guy who you can't just kind of run him out of bounds and hope that the play is over. He's going to do something at the very last second that will drive you crazy. Sometimes it'll drive the Georgia fans crazy. Sometimes it might drive the Oregon fans crazy. So we'll see what Bo Nix brings to the table.
Really, really excited for this upcoming weekend. We are back. Football season's here. 3:30 on Saturday, Georgia versus Oregon at the Benz. We'll see you guys there.